Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch a Track podcast presented by the Dude and Grim Show. I am the Dude.
And I am Grim, and I am very happy to announce that today we are going to discuss the album Wide Awake by Parquet Courts. And awake, mind you, is spelled with 5 A's.
5 A's. It couldn't be 4, it couldn't be 6, it was definitely 5.
No, that's how awake they are. It was like, 4 is not enough. Like, that 5th one is like the extra, like, dude, we're really up.
Dude, so their next album obviously is going to be called Woke. Right?
yeah.
I mean, come on.
With
There's a
5Ks.
There's a natural progression. So,
Yeah.
So, all right. Parquet Courts, Wide Awake, man. So now let me ask you, I imagine the vinyl is just the same as the versions I have been downloading.
It is. And that's one thing I like about it. I know a lot of the albums that we've done recently, it's like, there's
additional
some
tracks.
discrepancy with what's released versus what's on the actual album and all that shit. But no, this one, the tracks appear on the vinyl exactly as they would on the official release on whatever your streaming site is. And one thing I like about this, my wife was so nice to have given this to me one day out of the blue, but you got this nice blue
literally
vinyl.
out of the blue. Literally out of the blue.
Yeah, and
into the black.
Yeah, and I listened to I listened to the album once when I went for a run, and then I listened to the vinyl while I was making dinner because I like this one that much, and I've probably listened to this thing well over 100 times since it was released or since I heard about it.
Yeah. Had you heard of them or known their stuff before this album, or what was like your introduction to them?
Dude, sadly, no. I guess Lisa knew about them a bit, but we hadn't talked about them, and I didn't listen to them. But there is a local radio station in Grand Rapids, so shout out to 88.1, one of 2 radio stations, that's ever played my music. So that's
for
cool.
you, because one won't do.
But yeah, sometimes I listen to 88.1 because they play just all kinds of different music, and you can hear a lot of good stuff on there that I mean, for me, I wouldn't hear otherwise.
That's pretty cool.
And I heard the song Violence,
number 2,
the second song on the album. Yeah. And it was like, there's been a few times where I've listened to this radio station and I've heard something. I'm like, if I have to sit in the driveway when I get home, I'm going to sit there because I need to know what this was. And so after the song, they said that it was Parquet Courts, Violence off their newly released Wide Awake. And so I was like, well, I know what I'm listening to tomorrow. Yeah. And then, of course, like went on, whatever Spotify, Amazon, whatever I was using, whether it be at work or home, and listened to the album. And I probably haven't stopped listening to it since that point.
That's the sign. That's a sign of a good album, man. Sometimes you just get on those like year-long kicks with some albums, or they're just multi-year. Like you just like, man, I just can't get enough of it. And I've definitely burned some discs or burned some albums out doing that when I got to put them down for a while. But man, it's always a good kick to go on. So now if you because this is their 6th album, have you gone back and listened to like some of their other stuff and whatnot? And how do you feel like that stuff compares to this album?
I've listened to all their stuff. I do like, I guess I should stop. I haven't listened to their debut album that was released as a limited cassette called American Specialties. I have not heard that, but dude, I've heard Light Up Gold. I've heard Sunbathing Animal, Content Nausea, Human Performance. I guess I've listened to Monastic Living, but like for me, that kind of was real, just kind of noise, and like it wasn't so much a musical album. But I really like Human Performance, Sunbathing Animal, and Light Up Gold, but not like this one. I feel like this album was it was like a breakthrough for these guys, and not just because of popularity. I mean, because of like what they said, how they said it. The songs were so well crafted.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I've only been listening to it. Well, I think I remember when you recommended this album to me, and of course I didn't listen to it right away or download it. And then you did again.
Oh, I'm the same way.
And then
I'm the same way. Yep.
And then I did, and then I finally got to the point where I downloaded it, and then it just kind of sat there for a while. And then I put it on, and I was like, I totally dug it. Like it's just this, the way I characterize it, it's like punky funky pop. Like that's kind of how it's got that tone and feel to it, man. So
I think that's a great way to put it.
It hits all those things, and is you're very well aware of this. I'm sure other people are, but it is produced by one of our favorite producers, Mr. Danger Mouse, aka Brian Burton. And it was interesting because I read that, Andrew Savage said that he liked the fact that he was writing an album that was punk and kind of funk. But, Brian Burton, he thought of him more as like, I guess, a pop producer. And I could see that, with some of the stuff he's done. But he's also worked with like the Black Keys and Broken Bells and Beck. So there is, although I will say the stuff he's done with the Black Keys is not been their kind of grittier, more raw stuff that they did earlier.
Yeah, sure.
But it has been some of their later stuff. But, it's interesting because I listened to the album. And there's one or two songs that I have in my notes. We'll get there where I was like, okay, that has like the Brian Burton Danger Mouse like touch to it. But okay, for a lot of it, for me, I couldn't really tell. Like it's produced very well, obviously, but there wasn't anything where I was like, ooh, that's Danger Mouse or that's Danger Mouse. So
see, that's where I was at, because I probably listened to the album for like a couple months before. Because I'm the type of person, if I get something that I really like, typically I'll go read about it because I want to know who produced it. Sure. I want to know, all those things because why wouldn't you? But I don't think I knew for a number of months that Danger Mouse produced it. And then when I read that, I was like, well, fucking of course he produced it. Like,
of course that might not do any good.
No wonder. Yeah. You see, there's no one's that's missing.
Nobody's missing a porpoise. It's a dolphin that's been taken.
Oh, damn it! But yeah, I mean, no one was missing a porpoise here, and like I don't know. After listening to it, knowing that he produced it, I was kind of like, I get it, but it's interesting because, like you said, based on the stuff he's done, I don't think there's ever been anything, at least that I know about, that's like this album, because it has it has a lot of punk influence.
Yeah.
And there's some funk and like some African jazz kind of roots in a few of the songs, but it's a lot of punk, and there's some, like, I guess there's some ethereal kind of more stuff that is more relatable to like Broken Bells, but
I should have looked up to see if there's some interviews out there with I wish Danger Mouse or Brian Burton did more interviews and stuff like that, because I would love to hear kind of his side of the story about the recording process and them approaching him to do this and what he initially thought. Because on one hand, you're a producer and he's worked with a bunch of big bands and everything, and maybe at the time like he had probably known of them, but they're certainly not the household name that like the Black Keys or Beck or right. So
no, not at all.
But
they're like New York underground kind of fringe before leading up to this. I feel like.
I think for me, he must have gone into it with the kind of like, hey, this is going to be a challenge a little bit. I'm stepping outside of my wheelhouse, which, as a producer, I imagine you want to do that, right? I mean, I would. So
I would.
Yeah. But yeah, it was also like, received pretty well by critics. It was named Album of the Year by the Australian radio station Double J. But, those aren't huge accolades, Grammys, and stuff that we're talking about. But dude, I people within those niches really, I think, probably gravitated towards it, and it really struck a chord with them.
No, I agree. And I'm right now, I want to look up the list of albums that was released in 2018, because I think without even looking at this list, I can certainly say that this was far and away my favorite album that came out that year. I mean, no question.
What did come out that year? That's a good question. If anybody knows,
boy,
tell us some of your favorite albums of 2018 in the comments below.
Boy, there actually is a lot of them, but I mean, there's nothing, as I'm kind of scrolling down this list, there's nothing where I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I mean, this album, like, to me, tops it.
Head and Shoulders Above.
Yeah, no question.
Cool.
Although Cardi B, Invasion of Privacy. No. But
Cardi
yeah,
B.
I don't know. I thought it was fantastic, and it's never left. I guess it's never left like the normal set of things that I listen to since then.
I got you.
Oh, the Gorillaz Now was released. I actually haven't even listened to that album yet.
Not then.
I should.
When? Now.
Yeah, now.
The now. So they're, I mean, I guess, it says they're kind of they are from New York, but didn't you read that maybe they're from Texas, or because there's two brothers, the Savages are brothers, and then, and then
Austin, and I thought that I read that like Austin and Andrew Savage, or heard it in an interview or something, that they were, I don't know if they were going to school in Texas or whatever they were doing, or maybe they were born there, but like that they were both kind of from there, and then they moved to New York. So super fans, don't kill me on that. I'm kind of going by what I remember.
How dare you?
But yeah, I mean, they're basically like a New York, Brooklyn band, just as far as the world is concerned, because that's where I think they started the band and the music kind of came out of. And
yeah,
and I think has that kind of feel with some of the punk, and
yeah, it was interesting when I first kind of heard the album. There was a part of me I couldn't put my finger on like when it was and where they were from or anything like that. Like typically you can put a kind of a time period or where they might, just be from or something like that. And it like I just couldn't put it on there. It was interesting. But yeah, I just overall, this album, I don't think I've ever heard really anything quite like it. It's very unique. I mean, I don't know if I'd say it's D'Antwoord unique, but it is very unique, like an original. And it's all right.
Sure. Well, one thing, I did find a quote that Andrew Savage said, I personally like the fact that I was writing a record that indebted to punk and funk, and Brian, Danger Mouse's pop producer, who's made some very polished records. I like that it didn't make sense. And the thing is, it did make so much sense in the end. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't say enough about it. Like, to me, it's just, I feel like if I had a top 10 of albums from my generation, like, I don't know, like OK Computer would be on there, probably Rage Against the Machine, Evil Empire. This fucking album would absolutely be on there.
California.
I mean, it's awesome.
Really? Rage, Evil Empire, huh? Yeah, I guess our generation, right?
Dude, for a top 10 from our generation, and so would California by Mr. Bungle, for sure.
Yes.
But yeah, that I mean, not to digress too much, but that album, I'm sorry, like when that came out, that was like a holy shit, have you ever heard anything like this moment? You know what I mean? I remember that, listening to that in my driveway playing basketball and stuff, and there were definitely lyrics that popped up where you were kind of like, I hope that my or any of the neighbor parents don't come out at the moment because they're a little rough.
Yeah, I could see that.
It wasn't geared toward white suburban kids, but we listened to it anyways because it was good.
Exactly. So Mr. Grimm, what do you say? Do you have any other little tidbits you'd like to throw in there before we get into the album, or should we get in?
No, I don't think so. One thing I was going to do, there's a big lyric sheet, and the cover art for the album was done by Andrew Savage, as I think most of theirs are, but there's this really interesting poster kind of in the album, and I don't really know what it means, but
it looks cool.
I don't know. I like his art, because when you look at the album cover, I mean, there's something about that album cover that makes sense,
Dude,
with
it's so interesting. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's really unique. And anyways, that was
unique all. New York.
New York. That is all.
Yeah, that is all.
So yeah, let's get into the tracks. I'm really interested to hear your take on them all.
Track number 1, Total Football. Well, this one, I mean, obviously it was the first song that I heard when I put on the album, and dude, it gets the album off to a great start because it just hits like right off the bat, man. It's got a good groove, it picks up, and then he sings it, obviously. Well, he sings it really punky,
but that's how he sings,
and that's how he sings. He does have such an interesting kind of cadence, and we'll get into some of the other songs where he has like, it's almost like spoken word a little bit, but but in this song, really good transitions. Being a soccer / football player, don't call it soccer because that's what assholes call it. He talks about the football positions, strikers and the sweepers, and it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of funny when he's like going down the list of people, it's pretty
and
cool.
When they go into that and talk about the positions, that's like my favorite part of the song. Strikers.
Yeah, strikers.
Sweepers.
But
I didn't know it, but
good.
I was just going to say that term total football, I guess, is a Dutch theory about football. And it's like the idea that any player could assume any position at any time and just rapidly switch up, which kind of goes with the lyric of, collectivism and autonomy are not mutually exclusive, which I've always thought was a good lyric, because I feel like those folks who think things like socialized medicine and stuff make it so it's like a collectivist economy. They're saying it's like you can still have collective ideas but be your own person, which I think is cool.
Super cool. No, that's I didn't take quite the deep dive into the lyrics, although just talking about his lyrics, I don't know if I've ever heard lyrics like them before. And there's definitely something to be explored there. Like, everyone is not, I shouldn't say everyone, but there's people like, obviously like Beck and like even Isaac Brock and stuff. Yeah. Where they're just, some of their lyrics and word pairings and things that they do are very, very cool. And I liked some of the things that he said and how they said them just throughout through the whole album, not just this song, but
and they're not always pretty, right? But he has a good way of like, and I think when we get into the next track, or we can just go there now, but Violence, I mean, some of his lyrics in Violence are just like they're so poignant.
Well, dude, I mean, especially now, but yeah, Violent,
yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
Dude, just the bass intro riff is just pretty badass, man. Just the way that comes in, like right at the start, and it just kind of drives the song. But this is more, I don't know how to fully describe it, but it's almost like he's kind of preaching and speaking.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
it's not.
Yeah,
not
that's a great way to put it.
He's not singing with melody or anything like that. He's just kind of, and it could be off-putting for some people because he's basically like kind of talking at you. And then the main hook, violence is a daily life, which is
yeah. Has there ever been truer words spoken? I mean, shit.
Yeah. So, but
I like how he. Oh, go on.
No, I was just saying that's just like a really good hook, and he just kind of goes off on this song, man. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, the thing that I like is that not only does he talk about like this greater concept of violence and what that means in our society, but he brings it back to like levels that you wouldn't think of violence, like white collar America, where he says, and it stinks like the piss test you were forced to take just before they told you didn't meet the standards of integrity that our organization strives to maintain. Like, fuck yeah, dude.
It's a very kind of freeform flow, man. He's just kind of going off. And here's the thing, like,
it's so good.
I totally dig it, and I love it for this song. I think I would have a hard time listening to a whole album like that. But for a song here and there, I can handle it. It's good.
And this song has the right feel for it because it's just got that kind of chopped up. It's like funky. It's a little bit of like that Afro jazz influence. Like, I don't know. It works.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. This was the one that I heard where I was like, holy shit, I need to know what this is to listen to the rest of this album because I'm into it.
Yeah. Well, it's cool too, because then it goes from the bass line just kind of continues on into the next song, which is, Before the Water Gets Too High. So there is kind of like that seamless transition there, which is pretty badass. I mean, I love it when people do stuff like that. The song itself is pretty minimalistic. It's mostly, it seems to be bass and synth with a little percussion in the background and whatnot.
You're right. It's interesting that you bring that up because I thought of course my mind goes to what synthesizer are they playing in that song? Because that has a unique, interesting fucking 8-bit Nintendo sound to it, right? Well, come to find out, he's actually playing an instrument called an omnichord.
Oh.
And the omnichord was introduced, I guess, in like 1981. And it's like an electronic equivalent to an auto harp, which is one of those things with a bunch of strings and like buttons.
Yeah.
And if you hit the buttons and then play the strings, it'll just play like whatever chord the button's hitting.
Okay. All right.
Right. So with this thing, I guess I almost think about it more almost like an electric accordion, because an accordion on the left hand, the buttons are all chords, right? So you press a button and it's a chord. And this thing, it all has these chord buttons. And so as you listen to this song, When the Water Gets Too High, you can hear them kind of going between these chords that are different chords, but they're all in the same key and they work, really well.
The key of genius.
So, dude, it is the key of genius. But I don't know that when I read about it and then watched him play like a live version on the chord, I was like, fuck, I want an omnichord now.
Of course,
because they're so awesome.
Of course you do.
But the thing is, it's cheap. Like, these were like cheap fucking, like almost like toys when they were released. Like, this was not a serious musical instrument like a Hammond organ or something. It was like a fucking, it was like a Casio.
Dude.
You know what I mean?
On a plastic beach. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So move on to track 4, Miss Mardi Gras Beads. Some Mardi Gras. Dude, this song is, so one thing, I know how I said earlier, it's kind of like punky, funky pop. Some of their pop is like psychedelic pop. And to me, this has a little bit of a like poppy psychedelic feel to it, some cool, like those little guitar riffs and things like that.
Yeah.
It just has a fun upbeat feel. To me, it's like Summer of Love, and I know it's called Mardi Gras Beads, so I say Summer of Love in New Orleans. It's like that's the imagery I kind of get. That's
actually a really good way to put it. I think that like makes a lot of sense with the sound of it, because I hear you. It's kind of like ethereal a little bit. They got the Mellotron in the back, and it sounds like really big and dreamy.
Yeah. No, it's cool, man. So when you just look at the first kind of 4 songs that we have so far, they sound the same yet very different. Like, there is a good contrast. So I just kind of off the bat, I really dig kind of where this album was going. So,
me too. And this one was written by Austin Brown, and that was one thing that I think is cool about the band is, which is true to this release and their previous stuff, is that it's almost like the Beatles, right? Where like whoever writes the song typically sings it. So like you'll hear Austin Brown sing this one and Back to Earth and Death Will Bring Change, because those are the ones that he wrote for the album, right?
Right. Cool, man.
Which I don't know. I kind of like that, because then it kind of gives you a little more insight maybe as to who does what, or
sure,
for a given song.
That makes sense. Then we move on to track 5. Almost Had to Start a Fight / In and Out of Patience. Dude, did you know this song was featured in NHL 19?
I did read that, and I think that makes sense with like hockey, right?
Yeah.
Like I almost had to start.
I haven't played it. I mean, dude, I'm sure NHL 19 is great, but dude, there's no way it could be better than like 94, 95. Like, dude,
thank you on Sega Genesis.
Oh, the move.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, the move and then the wraparound too, right?
Dude, it's not even so much me as it is Ronick. He's good. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah, but this song, dude, it's got they kind of go punky, man. It's got this like real punky edge to it, right? And so, again, this is one of those songs in a certain sense, to me, kind of like Violence, where it could be a little off-putting, just kind of the way he sings it, where I could see some people maybe be like, I can just see that. For some people,
but then when you get into the In and Out of Patience part, it kind of pushes and pulls a little differently, right?
Dude, the transition's great, man. Yeah, it picks up.
It really does.
Dude.
It's cool.
Yeah, and dude, it's got like these pop harmonies and stuff. It's a very interesting mix of styles and sounds that I thought.
Yeah, and one thing I think it has too that a couple of the other ones have. I mean, I think Violence at some point and Total Football and many of the other ones, especially the title track as you go down, they do like the gang vocals thing where they all sing, and they do it really well.
Totally. Yeah. No, they do it well. And this next one is called Freebird 2. I love that transition.
But I love it.
It's great, man. It's sweet.
Yeah, because they end In and Out of Patience like they were at a show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and then introduce that one.
Yeah.
And
I mean, again, this has that kind of psychedelic poppy sound to it as well. Good, and then good harmonizing at the end. He's like, what, free? Yeah. I feel free inside me.
Like you told me I'd be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, this song is actually, I think Andrew Savage wrote this about his mother who had kind of like drug problems.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what it's about. And if you listen to the lyrics, you can kind of hear that it's it's like some sort of mix of I love you and you're troubled, and this is kind of how it affected me at the same time. It's really interesting.
That is interesting, man.
Yeah.
Get a little look inside, a little autobiographical. Sure they I'm sure they probably don't play this at Thanksgiving dinner.
Probably not.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We'll just move on from that one.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Normalization, number 7. Dude, this song hits pretty hard, man. It's got a great guitar riff in the beginning. But it's interesting how they do it. It's like he'll sing and then they do the little guitar riff, and then he sings and they do that little guitar riff, and it's funny how the pattern just kind of goes and everything, man. But I kind of dig it. So
no, I do too. And there was one thing that I didn't realize about this song, but it wasn't until I listened to it probably too many times with my son Ben in the car, where he has this lyric and he says, "Can I pass the Turing test? Do I think?" And I didn't know what that meant. And Ben told me that It's basically what that means is to see if you're a robot, because the Turing test is something that was developed by Alan Turing. Have you ever seen the movie, dude, The Imitation Game?
No.
The Imitation Game? Well, this dude, Alan Turing, he was the guy who, he was a British guy, and he developed the fucking decoder, which was basically like a primitive computer that cracked the German code when they would put things into it in World War II. And so the Turing test was something that basically he kind of, I don't know if he developed it or if it was kind of based on his pattern of logic, but it's something that you could give to like a robot or AI to determine whether it's a human or a computer.
Dude, that's pretty fucking
it's like
trippy, man.
Yeah, I know. It's like a series of questions. And what was even trippier to me is like, dude,
what year is that?
At the time, that was from the 1950s is when he kind of, but it's like this thing, I guess, now for like robotics and AI. And what was trippier to me is that like, I had seen the movie, but I didn't put that together. And like my 16-year-old son was like, hey, you don't know what the fucking, well, he didn't say that, but he's like, you don't know what the Turing test is?
Dude.
And I was like,
let's be honest. He was thinking it.
yeah. Oh,
Dumb,
he was.
Man.
Yeah, he was kind of like, you're a dipshit.
Yeah, pretty much. Well,
but that was an interesting piece of learning, and I love how kind of deep those lyrics go with that. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. Well, the next song, Back to Earth, to me, this was actually the most Danger Mouse song in the album when I listened to it. Just the rhythm and the beat.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the piano in there.
Yeah.
When I was listening to this, after I knew he produced it, this is the one that really stood out. And I was like, okay, I got that.
That makes sense.
And he sings it pretty. This is going to sound maybe a little cheesy because he says the lyrics, walk the line. But dude, he kind of sounds like Johnny Cash when he sings it a little bit, man. The way he has that kind of, his voice is so deep. But have you seen season 1 of True Detective? I don't know if it's...
yeah, okay. It's only one of the best fucking things that's ever been on TV.
Oh, phenomenal. Yeah. Absolutely. It's family viewing. So, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. But the intro song to that, I don't know if it's the same intro song that they have for the following seasons, but it's by the band The Handsome Family, and it's called Far From Any Road. And when I heard just kind of the way he sings, they sing that, it's the Handsome Family, Far From Any Road. He sings it a little deeper. But it's
like similar.
I feel like it's similar, and I feel like the song has a similar feel because it's kind of got this darker.
I need to check that out,
dude. It's a good song, man. Once I heard that on the intro, I was like, damn, it's kind of badass. So I dig it.
Yeah, that's sweet.
I mean, it's not spitting image by any means, but that's where my ears.
No, but there's similarities
when I heard that. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's sweet. I like that. I definitely want to check that out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like that. I think one thing that I heard in some interview, and I wish I could cite where said interview was, but that he kind of wanted to, Austin Brown kind of wanted to put a little bit of like rap elements in this song.
Okay.
It had more of a beat, you know, and I feel like you can kind of hear that a little bit.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It is definitely the song on the album that has that kind of rhythm and beat to it. And that's maybe where Danger Mouse, like, you know, put his little touches on it and everything.
For sure.
It's one of his specialties. But
I think that's sweet.
So should we move on to the self-titled track?
Dude, self-titled. Now, I want to know, on the record...
How many A's do they spell it with?
Just one on the back. Just one on the back. It's just the album that's spelled with 5. The song is with 1.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely has that kind of Afro jazz, you know, like
dude, it's a funky song, man.
Inspired beat, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of has like a sort of like this group sing along into it. Also, dude, did you notice the whistles that they have in the middle of the song too? And I'm like,
yeah,
dude,
brings you right back to Paradise City.
Oh, okay, that. But there's also actually the one I was gonna say, dude, Led Zeppelin, "Fool in the Rain." Yeah, I was like, oh, there's only a handful of songs that can pull it off, but
because that's almost more like a referee whistle. That's
you'd expect that in like Total Football, but whatever. But it's also in it's in the soundtrack for eFootball Pro Revolution Soccer 2020, which is an interesting name because they have football and soccer in the same name. I don't get it, but
it is weird.
It is in the soundtrack. Isn't it crazy how video games have soundtracks? It's just I'm not against it. It's just kind of interesting. I think
it's cool.
Grand Theft Auto probably started that. Didn't
kind of started it with the radio stations, right? Yeah. Now not to harp too long on this one, but I just the lyrics are, I don't want to say sparse because he's saying a lot of things, but they're just there's not a lot of them, I guess.
Yeah,
which I think is okay because what there are is good, and it's more like about the groove. You know what I mean?
Well, at least in the beginning, for the most part, it's kind of like the bass and the guitar are kind of mirroring each other when they're playing. They're like playing the same rhythm, and then a little bit later on, there's another guitar that comes in and kind of plays on top of that a little bit. That isn't quite mirroring, but it's still in the same kind of groove or whatever. But yeah, man, it's a good song. So then we move on to the shortest song on the album. These next two are pretty short.
NYC Observation.
Dude, a minute and 22 seconds. But dude, I love the little kind of, I don't know, just the groove that it gets into, man. It's just short to the point.
I know.
It's got this, he sings it all a little punky and everything. Like, dude, it's just a fun little song.
Yeah.
And I think this one, and then I don't know if we want to go right into this one and to Extinction, because they're both very short. I think both under 2 minutes, but they're like songs where I'm like, oh, these are really good. I kind of wouldn't mind if they were longer. Like they could keep going.
I know what you mean, but to me, those ones go right into each other, like your classic heartbreaker, live and love and made kind of scenario. You know what I mean?
She's just
and it was one of those things you said about in the D'Antwoord album where you're like, I didn't realize those were two different songs.
Exactly.
Because they just go so well.
Like when it goes,
which I think is cool.
Like going from the Uncle Jimmy skit right into Baby's on Fire, right? Like you just don't even notice the transition. It just happens. It's just there.
Yeah.
So if you haven't listened to our D'Antwoord one that came out last Wednesday, highly recommend it.
One thing I like about, or I guess one lyric, if I could highlight any lyric, I think this is the one.
Is this an Extinction?
Where he says, in Extinction, I thought he says, what does he say? I thought he says, sabotage my life just to find something to write about. Why does it always have to be this way?
Interesting.
Yeah, right here. Sabotaging life just to find something to write about. Why was it always this way? Did I do it on purpose? Like, I like that line because I can see, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's probably the only writer to have that thought or to actually do that intentionally or unintentionally, because if you keep sabotaging your life, you'll always have something to write about. That's just a good line.
I mean, dude, those are like the best songs like ever written. Nobody, people like to hear about lyrics about people going through horrible shit and despair, right? Like, oh, great.
And somehow coming out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not interested in the one where you're just like, you got up and you went to the fucking grocery store. Like that is not in. Yeah.
That is for country music. So,
yeah.
Exactly. So track 12, Death Will Bring Change. I mean, it typically does. And, not to get morbid, but it typically does. Lots of time for self-reflection.
I've always liked this track. This was like the one track like I didn't think I would like, but I actually always really have, just because of that. In the beginning, the way those chords changed so like abruptly, like almost like they were cut and not played smoothly, like then before
Yeah, to me, this is the most. I actually think this might be the most interesting song on the album, where I can't. Like, I was trying to think about, okay, what kind of genre would I would I put this song
Yeah.
in? And I can't.
That's a great question.
I've never heard anything like it before. Because then it's got this like high school choir kind of like singing in the background, but then it's got this pop bubblegum kind of feel to it, like the way he sings it and stuff. It's just such a weird song. But then in the middle of the song, dude, the guitar gets all fuzzed out and everything. Like it's just, dude, I just don't know how to categorize it. So how would you guys categorize it?
I know, and that's one thing I always really liked about that song is it was just weird, but weird in a way where I was like, I get it. Like I could write something that is like kind of more like this than, like a pop song.
Yeah.
Yep.
Final
and I think it's placed well. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think it's placed well right before the final track.
Tenderness. Dude, this song to me is also a real outlier as well. Dude, the piano, man, sounds so flipping good, dude. So good.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I don't know why, but this song reminds me of The Clash. I don't know why, but it just does. The way that like the piano comes in there, but they're not like playing it like you'd think of playing the piano. They got like a very distinct riff on it that stands out. And there's just something, I don't know why. I could maybe sound like a real idiot. Sorry if I do to whoever, but
no,
there's something about it that reminds me of The Clash, but I like the lyrics too. Like, we come to replace your clocks, old stubborn hands. We are the answer to why they never had a chance. Like, they're talking about long ago, the world was slower and everything kind of just speeded up and got out of control. Like,
I can't count how many times I've been outdone by nihilism. I mean, he's a nihilist. It sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
Dude, this song,
dude, that was
good. Yeah. What? I was just gonna say, dude, this song actually makes me want to kind of get up and dance, and not many songs do that. Like that's so.
Yeah.
It's got that it's got an upbeat, fun feel, man. So I dig it, dude.
I know it does.
Yep.
It's just funny when you said that thing from Lebowski about nihilism. One of the things when our last podcast where we were talking about the song "Fuck Linnaeus."
Oh, fuck Linnaeus!
Fuck everyone.
Yes.
The one thing I forgot to say was it made me think about Walter Sobchak's line where he's like, "Fuck you, fuck the three of you." Not all of them, just the three of them.
Exactly. Oh, Walter. So, all right, my brother. I think I scratched last time, so I think you might be. I know it's a tough one, dude. And I just went through it again right before we got on the podcast because I hadn't made up my mind yet.
I know.
And so I just listened to the intro of like each song for the first 10 seconds. I was like, shit, man, this is tough. And I think
I listened to the album twice today.
Yeah. And I think we discussed this a little earlier before we got online, and at least for me, because you were asking me like, oh, what my favorite song is, and there's definitely some songs that really stick out. I mean, I think maybe my favorite might actually be "Tenderness," the last one on the album. Although, dude,
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, I love Total Football, and I also love the what is it? Back to Earth, like kind of the Danger Mouse song.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I did want to ask you what your favorite one was.
I think it might be Tenderness.
Or at least favorite ones, because I mean, I think that's the thing that we've been missing is we always talk about like what we would scratch, but what's your favorite one?
What's your favorite? Yeah, sometimes it just kind of comes up organically, but yes. So I would probably have to go with Tenderness. How about yourself there, Mr. Graham?
Before the Water Gets Too High.
Oh, yeah.
I could just the lyrics are
dude. That's
just
a great
so
fucking
goddamn
line,
good,
dude. That's a great line.
Yeah, the whole fucking song is a great line. Like I could listen to that song over and over, and I love the sound of that fucking omnichord because it's so like cheap and like it almost the cheapness of that sound goes with like the lyrics so well. It's like word painting just by the choice of instrument. It's really Really impressed with that song. Always have been. And they
impressive.
do a really cool live version of it on, well, I've seen a couple, but there was one on like a, I don't know, like some sort of radio station in studio thing, and they did a live version. He has the fucking Omnicore. It's really cool.
Sounds bad.
Anyways.
All right. Well, your turn to scratch, my brother.
That's my favorite.
Okay. So not scratching that one.
Well, dude, I don't think we're going to find ourselves in a Capitals Islanders scenario.
Really? Okay. Wow. Because you're going to go with tenderness?
Oh, fuck no.
Oh, okay. Well, then how do you know?
Because I'm scratching Back to Earth. That's my scratch.
Ooh, okay. Okay. All right.
And you said that might have been your favorite.
That's true. I did.
So I know we're not going into OT. My only reasoning there is because it's just like everything in the album is just push. It's like it's just at a good pace up to there, and I feel like that almost like throws me off a little bit.
I got you.
It's not that it's not a good song, because it's actually a really good song, but I guess if I could live without one, thinking about flipping the record, I could flip it at normalization and go right into the rest.
Okay, that's fair. So, the one I went with, and as I think about this, I'm looking at the transition, and it is one of my favorite transitions into the album because the song preceding it goes into Freebird 2, and I love that transition. But I'm going with Almost Had to Start a Fight / In and Out of Patience.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the reason is I put this song and Violence on similar kind of playing ground as far as how he sings it. And how I think I mentioned.
Oh, I can see that.
It could be a little off-putting to people, and I think there's just times where, and like I love Violence and everything. I mean, the song, sure. But so with this one, I just felt like I could kind of move on. It's hard to do that because I do like the transition that it does in a Freebird 2. Not to say that they couldn't still do that transition, but I mean, dude, this was a tough one for me to do because there's songs that I like. I really like all the songs, and
me too.
And there's nothing other than maybe kind of I guess how he sings on those two where I'm like okay, maybe I just don't want to hear it in this one, and that's just it.
Okay,
that's just it. So
man, I like that one so much because of like the punk feel it gets into, and one line to me about that one that always stood out was he's talking about all this stuff, and then he says, "And all I got left is this shit attitude." And I'm like, God, is that not a? But I get why you would. I mean, no question.
It's hard to argue with that.
Well, it's hard to argue with it all, but I think that, our both of our similar conclusions, which I appreciate, is like this was something that was, I think, probably near and dearer to my heart than it was yours when we started. I mean, just the fact that you listen to it and you're like, I'm really having a hard time scratching.
Really hard time scratching.
Like I can't reach it.
It's just like it's over here.
You just can't reach it.
Can't reach it, man. Can't reach it. But yeah. Well, to all you awesome fans out there, let us know what song you would track. Have you heard the album? Are you fans of maybe other Parquet Courts albums? Let us know if there's another one that you guys think we should scratch, because this is definitely a cool band, maybe one that people haven't, people who have been listening to us aren't as familiar with, Grim. So I think it's one we both highly recommend. Just give it a couple listens, because even for me, like it took me, it always takes me a couple listens to kind of get into it. But now, dude, it's one of those albums where I'm like, oh, okay, like, oh yeah, we've done the podcast, but I'm still going to be listening to it a lot in the future. So that's kind of how I am.
As you would say for me with the vinyl that I listened to once along with the digital version today, like this does not go out of my rotation. I love it.
Nope. Well, I think that about wraps it up, Grim. Thank you everyone for listening. Please give us a like, a subscribe, some comments, follows. If you have
what
other
would
friends,
you scratch?
What would you scratch? Well, what would you do? If you have friends or people who are really into music and think they might like this show, well, then send them a link. Because,
even just acquaintances, that's also fine.
Exactly. So, all right, everyone. Until next week, happy hump day. We will see
you later.
Later.
Scratch Your Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's ... M-O-R-E. And the Tims, T-I-M-N-Z. Copyright 2020, The Dude and Grim Show.